Hello and welcome to episode 188 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here as always with Michaela. And Michaela, every October we go through and we do a bunch of like scary movies and scary adjacent movies. Sometimes they're for the adults, right? Psycho, Bram Stoker's Dracula, probably Nightmare on Elm Street later this month. But sometimes, we gotta keep things kid friendly here every once in a while too. So what we do is we find a children's movie that's perfect for this time of year. We cry our little eyeballs out, and then we get on here to talk about it. So, hi, Michaela. Let's talk about Coco.
And by we, you mean me, because so we have to tell the story because Brian, we were looking at the calendar, and I don't know, something like Terrifier 3 on the list or something for us to
Yeah.
do. And Brian said, "Hey, maybe we should do something for the kids this month, especially since kids are the reason why Halloween
Yeah.
like
Michaela
continues
wanted
to
to do
exist."
Saw 1 through 5 for the whole month, I think is what
That's
she
it.
wanted to do.
Yep, that's what I wanted to do. And but Brian said, "Hey, we've got young listeners. Nora, this is for you, darling. We thought it would be good to do something." And so I racked my brain and I couldn't figure it out. And Brian was like, "Hello, there's a whole movie dedicated to Dia de los Muertos. You should look at it." And I was like, "Oh, Coco. That's going to be so sad." I had never seen this film before, and I did it on
Mm.
purpose because I just knew it. I grew up in San Antonio. Like, I was like, this is going to be a very, very emotional film for me. And Brian knew that full well and said, "That's fine. We're going to do it. We're going to find a cocktail for it. We're going to find a mocktail for it. It's going to be awesome." And it did. We did. It was. Yes.
We did, and it was indeed. Absolutely, absolutely. So we're going to be talking about Coco today, that Pixar animated new classic. So let's do that, Michaela. Let's go ahead. We'll take a quick break. We'll grab some cocktail ingredients. We can garnish those with flowers. We can give it our blessing, and then we'll be right back to mix up this week's drink.
So, Brian, I was looking through the internet, as I sometimes
Hmm.
do. And we found this group from Cheers Online, this group of cocktails. If you're throwing like a cocoa party, these are all really good looking, but we could only pick one because we had a lot of flowers that we had to like rip the petals off, and we had a lot of things we had to do to get ready for this film. So we picked Frida's flowers, which
Hmm.
could be arguably like the best tequila cocktail I've ever had in my life.
Ooh. Yeah, it is pretty
Maybe.
good. It is pretty good. Yeah, when we did have a lot of flowers, so that made sense. That made sense. There's a lot of flowers in the movie, whole bridges worth of them, and we're
Yep.
going to talk about that. But you're going to need some if you want to jazz this cocktail up. You don't have to have them, right? It's just an aesthetic kind of thing. It's not really going to do anything for you flavor wise, but it is going to make the drink very, very pretty. And yeah, this is a very inspired tequila drink. We were looking through some of these, and basically 9 times out of 10, you find some cocktails for like Dia de los Muertos, and it's going to be some like margarita variant, maybe a Paloma variant, and that's kind of what this is. But to me, this was more of like a tequila like martini, like some sort of like cosmopolitan riff,
Yeah.
right? For the Day of the Dead. So let's go ahead and we'll put one of these together. It's pretty simple if you have your stuff here. So into a shaker tin goes 2 ounces of Blanco tequila. And then you're going to want to use 3/4 of an ounce of strawberry or hibiscus syrup. I used strawberry syrup in mine. I'd actually made it up for our cocktail for Beetlejuice, which was the Patreon bonus episode this past month. So you can go check that out and see how I made that on our Patreon. It's patreon.com/drinkthemovies. But you're going to need 3/4 of an ounce of that, either strawberry or hibiscus. Basically, you want something that's pink and sugary. 1 ounce of lime juice, and then a 1/4 ounce of creme de cacao. And that was the real ingredient that kind of stuck out to me because I was like, I don't know how those flavors are going to work together. So let's try it. And try it we did.
Yeah. And I have to say, there are two types of creme de cacao. There's a clear one, and then there's a dark one. I'd recommend the clear one for this, just from an aesthetic perspective.
Yep.
I used hibiscus syrup, so that was the biggest difference, I think, between the two of us. But yours turned out pink and pretty. Mine was a much deeper color. And you can garnish these with edible flowers. I had some hibiscus, like freeze-dried hibiscus, that I put on top that make really look pretty. But yeah, this drink is tasty.
This drink is
Uh,
tasty. Yeah. Like I said, I kind of compared the taste to like a Cosmopolitan with that
mhm.
tequila slant on it, right? So tequila to me always has kind of this like sweeter kind of like backbone to it. So it's like that, like agave really kind of shines through in a tequila, especially in a silver tequila here. So you're letting, kind of that lime juice and then, whichever flavor of syrup you pick, do a lot of the heavy lifting. And then the creme de cacao, I have to say, was amazing. Like obviously it's a chocolate liqueur, right? It's cacao nib there, but it didn't really like impart any sort of like chocolate flavor to it. Just kind of the softness to
Mm,
it that kind of softened the edges there on that lime juice and the tequila. This was really good, really inspired, and really good.
yeah. No, it was, I was a little concerned with the cacao-ness as well. But it ended up being one of my favorite tequila drinks of all time. I am not kidding when I said that. I am gonna have another one later today because it's real good. And the thing about the hibiscus or the strawberry syrup is you can make this sweeter or as unsweet as you want. So if you really want it to please the masses who love super sweet things like a Cosmo, you can do that. Just
Mhm.
add more syrup to it, right? If you want something a little bit more boozy, just add a little bit and put in some extra lime juice. However you want to dress that up. I really liked this one. It's so simple because it's only 4 ingredients, and I was just really impressed by it. It would be interesting to see, um, like we were talking about different types of tequila, and I might play around with the tequila blanco a little bit and see if it might be a little bit different with like a reposado, just to see if it would
Mhm.
add just a different texture or taste to it. I don't think a mezcal would be as good because I think it would overpower the delicateness of the creme de cacao, but maybe, I don't know.
Maybe,
Either
yeah,
way,
it
I'm
would.
gonna figure it out. I'm
We're,
going to
we're
try.
gonna try. We're gonna try it all the ways. Michaela had one of these for the movie, and then she had three of these in the last 10 minutes of the movie. I guarantee. So that's what we're doing. But if you've got young ones around, or maybe you want to go booze free, or you could totally add something to this, some vodka or gin or tequila or something like that. We thought we would go ahead and mix up a bit of a treat for the youngsters out there. So this is going to be
Aqua fresca.
agua fresca. Yeah, we're going to do one of those here. And this is just kind of a simple recipe. It's
Mm.
not anything in particular, so you can do whatever you want with this. But basically, to put one of these together into like a big pitcher, put 4 cups of water, right, like filtered drinking water. And then you're going to use 2 cups of fresh fruit. Can be any kind of fruit that you want. It can be a mixture of fruits. It can be all one fruit. You can let the kids pick out the kind of fruit that they want for their Coco viewing party, whatever you want to do there. So 2 cups of that, a quarter cup of sugar, 2 teaspoons of lime juice, and then you can use some lime wedges for your garnish there. Go ahead and just mix that up. You want to let it sit in the fridge for, I would say like the better part of a day, probably like 4 6 hours. Longer is going to be better than shorter. And then pour that out and into some cups, and away you go. But agua fresca, that's really good. It's refreshing. Maybe not the best October cocktail, but it's good any time of year, really. And it's a good way to use up like leftover fruits. If you got some stuff that's getting ready to turn, go ahead and throw that into an agua fresca and make yourself up a tasty treat.
Absolutely. I mean, I think from a Dia de los Muertos uh, perspective, because Coco has an ofrenda, right? You can think about
Mhm.
any fruit that might be good, like apples would be great, oranges, any sort of citrus. You could put some berries in there. That'd be lovely too. Make it really colorful, like you would in an ofrenda. I think that would be really cool and tasty.
Absolutely, it would be. So, those are our drinks for this week. So, Michaela, now that we have those made, let's go. Just grab the bottle of tequila and let's go. We're gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna be right back to chat about this week's film, Coco.
You always this nervous before a performance?
I don't know. I've never performed before.
What? You said you were a musician!
I am. I mean, I will be once I win.
That's your plan? No, you have to win, Miguel. Your life literally depends on you winning. And you've never done this before! I'll go up.
No, I need to do this.
Why?
If I can't go out there and play one song, how can I call myself a musician?
What does that matter?
Because I don't just want to get De La Cruz's blessing. I need to prove that I'm worthy of it.
Spoiler warning for Coco. If you've not seen this film, do yourself a favor and go have a drink first. And then
Yes.
come back,
Grab tissues.
grab some tissues, and then we can chat about it because we're going to talk about it. And it's really emotional. You've been
That
warned.
is
You've been warned.
you've been warned. That was Michaela play acting her crying. It's not going to keep her from crying in the real episode. I guarantee that. I guarantee that. So, Michaela, this was released in 2017. It was directed by Lee Unkrich and Adrian Molina. They're on to co-direct, and it stars the voice cast of the musically minded Miguel. He is voiced by Anthony Gonzalez. Gael Garcia Bernal is the nearly forgotten Hector, and the most famous musician in the land of the dead and living is Ernesto de la Cruz. He is voiced by Benjamin Bratt. So there's a couple of others we'll talk about probably as we make our way through the story here. So this was a pretty big deal when it came out. Coco was. It won 2 Oscars. It won the Oscar for Best Original Song, Remember Me, which is nonsense because that song plays in like the last 2 minutes of the film, and no one can hear the song over their own like bawling because you're crying so hard you can't hear that song. So that's nonsense. I don't even know how it won. So no, it's a great song, great song. Remember Me. And then it also won, of course, Best Animated Feature Film. So pretty good kudos there for this film. It was also, I don't know, I had a really hard time. I tried to look up like current day, but within the second week of this release, it was the top grossing film of all time in Mexico. So very big deal. Very big deal for Coco.
Yeah. This film did a lot, right? It was huge when it came out in 2017. It obviously won the Oscars. I knew it was going to win just because I had a deep feeling in my soul. And this is one of the ones that I didn't watch because, again, I knew it was going to rip my heart out. But I will say, Remember Me is fantastic. It's a really wonderful, like, I don't know, the song is really beautiful. When they played it for the Oscars, I got all weepy, and I knew that was just a snippet of what was to come if I were to watch the actual film. But this was a super success. And one of the things that I really love about it is the art direction and animation. It's so colorful. It's really like inspired the way that they talk about like the afterlife and death and being relatable to everybody. I remember learning about Dia de los Muertos when I was in like Spanish class, and I grew up in San Antonio, so it was like a thing that you had to learn about. I felt like a weird checking of the box, but you still had to learn about it, even though it was kind of all around you. And so that was really interesting, and I wondered how they were going to tackle like this almost religious cultural phenomenon in a way that was like accessible to everybody. The way they do that through the shoe store and music and like this kind of transcendental like coming of age story is really, I think, where it just blossoms into this really beautiful, rich fabric story that has a bunch of tie-ins that we still enjoy, 7 years later.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it does a really good job of kind of making this correlation between, kind of the land of the dead where the bulk of this film takes place, and how that relates to, those of us back here in the plane of existence. And it's incredible. But before we get to the land of the dead, we need to figure out how we're going to get there. So let's get this movie started off. I really like it's kind of like these paper like streamer kind of things. It's telling a little bit of the backstory, right? It's about great grandma and great grandpa, Grandpa leaves to go off on his musical adventure and leaves his wife and baby Coco at home, right? Therefore, getting music banished from the family forever to the rest of time, which is bad news for our youngster Miguel, because we're going to go fast forward to modern day and we see young Miguel there running around through town. There is a very plucky little dog that follows him around, which is really pretty great. His name is Dante, and we learn, right, from Miguel's grandmother says, you don't name street dogs or they'll follow you around forever. And Dante is going to do that because Dante is a spirit animal at heart. Love Dante so much. But yeah, it's getting us set up here, right, with the basis of the story. It's that this family has this kind of roots in this musical world, but a tragedy unfolds and it's going to push music out of everyone's life, much to the dismay of young Miguel, who only aspires to do one thing, and that's to be a great musician one day.
That's right. He idolizes this late great musician Ernesto de la Cruz. He teaches himself guitar by watching his old videos. I think that is insane and amazing. And he has got a really good voice. But his dream is to become a musician and not work in the family business, which is making shoes, which is not a bad business. I love how like they show all the current family members who have not died, like all of the ones that are still alive, and how they all
Mhm.
like work on the different things. And he, even Miguel himself, he goes to the plaza and he's shoe shining for all of these folks and all these musicians. And his grandmother doesn't even want him to talk to the musicians. She's like, you're not about that, son. Absolutely not.
Right.
You shouldn't even touch an instrument. And she's very over the top about it. And it's her mother that is the daughter who was left. And so we see Grandma Coco, like Abuela, great Grandma Coco, and she's like super old, really beautiful artwork around her facial features and the way her hands
Mhm.
look. She's sitting in this little chair, and obviously she's quite old. She has memory issues. She's asking who her daughter is, and that's really upsetting to watch. Miguel doesn't really understand kind of all of these things that's happening. All he wants to do is play some music. He doesn't understand why they can't just kind of let him do that. And he accidentally bumps into the ofrenda, which is like this, for anybody that doesn't know, it's like
It's like an
a
altar, kind
shrine.
of.
It's
Yeah.
like an altar with pictures of all these people in your family that have died. And what you do for Dia de los Muertos is you give them like their favorite foods. You put stuff near them that they like mangoes, and there's like Coke, like an old Coke bottle. There's a bunch of different like art pieces that are near them. But unfortunately, this picture, the only picture that they have of the great great grandmother and the little daughter Coco, is on the ledge, and it falls. And Miguel sees that it inadvertently has a picture of this guitar that has been obscured and kind of taken off so that nobody knows that he left to go pursue music. And he had this really interesting guitar that Miguel immediately notices and is like, oh, that looks like the guitar that Ernesto de la Cruz had. Oh my God, he's got to be my great, 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 great grandfather. This is amazing.
This is amazing. Yeah, absolutely. It does a really good job of kind of laying that out, right? And you get Miguel there talking with his grandmother there is, kind of going through and talking about this ofrenda there. And you see it from both perspectives, right? If you're a kid, you're totally like with Miguel, like, he's heard this story like 10,000 times for sure. But now like as an adult, you're like, oh, just listen, hear your grandmother out, kid, for sure. And then they go, yeah, to the Dia de los Muertos, kind of festival that they're having, right? They're having sort of a big party. They're having this like open mic night sort of a thing. And Miguel decides then at that point he sees that guitar in that picture. He knows that certainly must be his birthright. He's seen that guitar 10,000 times. It's in like his own like little like hidden shrine there. It's in this mausoleum where Ernesto de la Cruz is entombed. So he's going to go and try to get that guitar, right? Because Grandma smashed the guitar when she got upset. He was out there in the town square, with courting with different musicians and things. Thanks a lot, Grandma. So he's going to break in to this tomb and take the guitar. Everyone kind of is following him in there and looking for him. But when he touches that guitar, something magical happens, right? Some of the flower petals that have been there for the festival are going to start to glow and illuminate, and he takes the guitar, and then none of the people can see him. But when he looks out into the party, he sees all of these deceased relatives and friends and things, all of these skeletons. So Miguel has transcended into a different plane entirely.
He has. I love this scene. I think it's really beautiful the way that it looks. Again, the art direction here and the animation is really special. The way that they have like created the look of the dead, with the
Mm-hmm.
skeletons, and they're all different shapes and sizes, but their skeletons are all the same slightly. Like I mean, they look like skeletons, but you still have like these women that are in these really big dresses that have like air where their bodies should be because they're just skeletons. I think it's really ingenious. But you feel bad for Miguel because he picked the wrong day to steal from the dead. This is the day where you're supposed to be giving to the dead. So he's cursed,
Mm-hmm.
and his whole family is cursed. And the only way that he can get back home is to have his family members in the world of the dead, the land of the dead, give him a blessing. before sunrise, or else he will stay in the land of the dead and officially be dead forever. We don't want that. No one wants that. His family that he's kind of running into, I love them. He is realizing who they are, and we get to see kind of like the picture of them as a living person that was on the ofrenda to the picture, of them now. And they're like, oh my gosh, we've been watching you for years. And how are you? And he's like, I don't want, what is going on? And so at first it's very like comedic, especially the two uncles that look like twins that might have died on the same day. I mean, I don't know how that happens, but they're there. It's really pretty cool. The way that they all kind of still bind together and they still act like a family very much in the afterlife.
Yeah, for sure. The design of the skeletons is really cool. And then they can play around obviously a lot with the composition of these skeletons in different comedic ways. One of the little like short uncle, like he keeps getting like knocked apart there because bad news, right? Not only is Miguel now in the land of the dead, right? He has been banished, he has been cursed, but also his great grandmother. Imelda, right? She can't get back either because he took her picture off of the ofrenda, and we find out that's how the land of the dead works, right? That's why you have them. They go through. It's very much like a passport and customs line. You go and you get your picture taken, and they say, "Oh, yep, your family has your picture up there. You are good to go back home." And that's what we kind of see, right? We see everyone going across these bridges that are made of these golden flower petals. It is very beautiful, and even more beautiful than that is beyond that. There is the land of the dead. Pixar has access to colors that the rest of humanity hasn't discovered yet or something. It is so bright and vibrant. It is crazy. It is crazy. And speaking of things that are crazy, we also have another cat there. His name is Hector, who's trying to get in, but he goes up and gets scanned and no one has his picture. So he's not able to make it in. It's really kind of a neat and very sad visual as he tries to, kind of flee and run across that flower petal bridge and, slowly kind of gets sucked down in. And then we find about the bureaucracy in the land of the dead, right? Even in the land of the dead, you can't get out of things like the DMV and stuff like that. You have to go into the office and try to figure this out. So Miguel is going to be given that offer, right? None of the family dares stand up to great grandma Imelda or great great grandma Imelda, but she makes Miguel the offer. She says, "I will give you your blessing. You can go back home, put my picture back up, you knucklehead, great 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 grandson of mine. But you're gonna have to go back. You're gonna have to love your family. You're gonna have to do what they say, and you're never going to play music again." And Miguel takes one thought about that and says, "Not for me. Sorry."
Nope. Yeah, you can take that blessing and keep it, because again, he realizes that he's thinks that Ernesto de la Cruz is his great 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 grandfather. So if he just finds him, surely he will give him his blessing and let him play music, and not hold that as a gatekeeping for living. And I have to say on this one, like the logical person talking about the dead people that are having to offer a blessing is really mad at great great grandma Imelda. Like, come on now, he's gonna die. I mean, but anyway, bygones be bygones. We go with Miguel on this adventure, and Hector is there, and he's like, "Hey, I know Miguel, and if you go back to the living, you can take my picture and you can put it on a mantle because I'm being forgotten." And I really love this scene. He goes back to where Hector lives. Hector doesn't have a really nice house. There's a lack of color, but he's got really good people. He's like, these are sort of family that we've chosen over time, because there's a lot of folks that don't have anybody putting their picture on the ofrenda. So they never get to go to the land of the living and visit their loved ones. And because no one's there to remember them, they start to disappear. And it's like the final death is what they call it. And I really loved this from a poetic standpoint, because we often say that no one is really gone as long as there are people around that remember them, but everybody gets forgotten in time. Absolutely everybody. And so it's interesting, because this idea that even people who are have only been alive or only been gone for a very short while, they can get forgotten, and that has a final impact on how they spend the afterlife is really kind of daunting and haunting as a child. We see we see Hector meet with one of his friends, and he's like, "Hey, can I borrow your guitar? Because this kid needs to get in and go see Ernesto de la Cruz. And we realize that Hector is actually quite the amazing musician as well. And things don't seem quite right. Hector seems like a really good guy. We don't understand why no one's got his picture on an ofrenda and why he's being forgotten. They kind of joke, the people in the town around him and his kind of family that he's chosen jokes and calls him chorizo because he choked on something. And he's like, no, that's not how I died. I died of food poisoning, guys. Come on. It's not cool. It's, but Hector is going to help Miguel break into Ernesto's kind of party. He's got this weird party that's not a weird party, but it's like a party for, I guess, all the creme de la creme of the dead folk in the land of the dead. And one of the ways that they could get in is to play like this dead talent show. And so Hector and Miguel kind of do this duet thing on stage with the guitar, and they sing a couple of songs. They sing Poco Loco, which is amazing. It's one of my favorite songs in the whole show. The sound is just epic and beautiful. And I really love kind of the art direction where you see all of the different types of skeletons, like all dancing and really excited. And it's one of my favorite parts because you really feel that Miguel, not only does he love the idea of music, but he's actually incredibly talented.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to go back and talk just a little bit about that scene with Hector's friend there, because it is really important in kind of the way that they're outlining the story, right? So we've already learned that the ofrendas are important, and in the moving kind of back and forth, right, between the realms on the Dia de los Muertos, but we don't really understand kind of the long-term effects of that until he's there with his friend. He has to play his guitar. His friend is a character by the name of Chicharron, who's played by Edward James Olmos, and it is an emotional, like, heart-wrench of a scene for sure, as Hector is there playing him this guitar, and we find, you're literally seeing him, kind of blinked out of existence, taking this final death, as everyone in the land of the living has forgotten about Chicharron there, which is beautiful and sad. So we learned that Hector is musically gifted, because Hector has said, I can get you in to meet De La Cruz, right? I know him. I used to know him. We used to do all these things together. But now it's laying the groundwork for why exactly that is, because Hector is, musically talented, kind of knows all of these songs and things, and is going to be able to help Miguel along his way. Yeah, he gets to this party. I guess it's like Dick Clark's like New Year's Rockin' Eve kind of a thing,
Yeah.
right? So they have the talent show. He gets his way into this party, which really wouldn't have been that hard to do, because everyone in the land of the dead knows about this human boy that's running around, right? So he could have totally just walked right in, and we get to finally meet Ernesto de la Cruz, voiced again, as I said, by Benjamin Bratt, who is great. This kind of larger than life character. I love his party. It is so like opulent things, and one of my favorite kind of just visual things about the movie here, aside from the way that it looks and things, but kind of the like big like visual like storytelling kind of a thing, is they're going down, they're doing all these things, right? He finds out that Miguel is his long lost forgotten son, potentially, spoiler warning. But they're going around, they're doing all of these things, and then they end up, they're kind of walking through like the like basement level, I guess, of Ernesto de la Cruz's big opulent mansion there, and there's just like towers and towers high of guitars and sweets and drinks and things, because everyone back in the land of the living loves Ernesto. So those were all of the things that he was gifted on Dia de los Muertos, and he's like, I don't know what to do with all this, but I guess people love me. So
Yeah, I mean, I want to talk a little bit too about some of the just some of the details around like who's who and culture. And so when they go, Miguel goes to, I don't know, the rehearsal of this big show that is supposed to happen. There's this woman there that is a director, and you should know her. You do know her. I'm halfway through listening to her talk about it. She's like, I got it. We'll have a giant avocado with people, with the dancers coming out looking just like me. Then we'll set them on fire. And then they will fly through the sky. And then they'll land in a pool. And then they will do this. And I'm like, what is going on? And then they're like, hey, Frida, I thought you couldn't make the party. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is the most amazing thing ever. I absolutely loved it. And they keep like making mention of Frida being able to like be this artist in a very different way in the land of the dead, but she's still crazy. Like her art is still really like weird and strangely visual. And like, I don't understand why things are crawling out of an
It's like,
avocado, but whatever. Frida Kahlo is amazing. She's one of my favorite artists. So I just loved that piece. And they, they end up dressing up. Hector ends up dressing up as Frida to get into the party. And Ernesto's like, Frida, you missed it. I thought you weren't able to come, even though you directed this whole thing for me. That was so nice of you. But it ends up all coming to a head. Miguel says, "Hey, I think you're my great grandfather," and Ernesto's like, "That's awesome. I will totally give you my blessing. Yes, absolutely." Hector kind of shows up, and Hector and Ernesto do know each other. They have a lot of history, and in fact, Ernesto was best friends with Hector, and they performed together a lot. And then it comes out that the truth of the matter is that Hector was the one who wrote all these beautiful songs, even though Ernesto passed them off all as his, including this really beautiful, heartfelt song, Remember Me, right? Which everyone has been raving about. In fact, during the talent show, when they were going to talk or they were going to sing, Miguel's like, let's do Remember Me. And he's like, everyone does that. Let's not do that. Let's pick a different song. Come on, we can be more original than that. And so Ernesto is like, hey man, I'm really sorry you died. I don't know what to tell you. But this is my great grandson and I'm going to give him a blessing so he can take your picture back. But it turns out that Ernesto is actually not the great guy, not the larger than life, wonderful person that we all thought he was and that Miguel thought he was, because Ernesto poisoned Hector to take all of his songs and pass them off as his own.
Yeah, kids, here's some murder in your kid show. So, good job there. Yeah, Ernesto, total big jerk, right? Hector is going to go and take his songs. He just wants to go back home, right? He had left his wife and newborn baby, which is questionable choice, but he wants to make right by them, right? He decides that he's going to go back home and be the upstanding father that he was meant to be. And Ernesto takes great offense to that because he needs those songs, right, to pursue his life of fame and fortune. And Miguel picks up on that, right? He's like, "Oh, that toast that you made, that was from this movie," and it kind of goes into watching the scene of this movie that Ernesto had acted in, and yeah, sure enough, poisoned him with some bad tequila. So heed warning out there if you're going to do that. And we find out the truth then, right? So Hector is basically taken away by his guards, and Miguel's like, I don't know about that, Grandpa. That seems pretty bad. That seems pretty bad. Shouldn't have done that, maybe. And Ernesto is going to keep doing bad things. He's like, you're my grandson, or my great grandson, and that's good and all, but I totally murdered my best friend, so I'm gonna basically go ahead and throw you in lurch too. I don't care if you don't get back out of here because my secret is too important to let you back out. So also going to be thrown down in the pit with Hector, and that's when the wheels start turning a little bit, and who is who becomes a little bit more prominent. And Miguel pulls that picture of his Mama Imelda out, and Hector recognizes her and little baby Coco there as the ones that he left behind to pursue his career.
Yeah, and it's real sad because you realize that he did go out on the road. And this was, Miguel even says at the very beginning, he's like, all of these people were dead long before I was alive, right? So it wasn't like he could call or text or anything like that. Letters took a very long time. He sent letters, but what happened to him was he had really wanted to go home, and he was going to come home, and it was never his intention to abandon his family at all. But they never knew. They got letters from him until finally they didn't anymore, and they thought that he was just off living his dream, when really he was dead and he'd been murdered by his best friend, and he didn't even know it in his afterlife. So it's really sad in that sense. Your heart just breaks for him as he thinks about how he really wanted to be there for Coco growing up, and he can tell she's the only one left that would remember him, and because now she's quite old and has a lot of memory issues, that she's really struggling to remember him. And so he has these moments where he's kind of incapacitated. I really love what they do. They kind of brighten, like they show him brightening, like his soul is starting to kind of I don't know, effervesce.
Mhm.
And then it comes back together because she'll remember him. But it's very touching and very heartfelt. And I also love the direction of like the scenery of where they're in. They've been thrown into like a cenote pit, and so there's these tights up at the ceiling, and there's this really beautiful view, and they're having this discussion, and they realize that they are related. And you know, that's kind of a heartfelt moment for both of them, and the rescue just in time by the good old spirit animal that's like, I don't know, half panther, half yak, half owl with a dragon's tail. It's real weird. It's colorful. It's scary animal. I would not want that animal at the foot of my bed.
It's a
That's
cat. It's a cat mostly. I think its name is
uh,
Pepita.
Pepita.
And that's Mommy Imelda's spirit animal, right? So she flies in, right? Because this whole time she's been looking for Miguel, right? In the background of kind of the story unfolding, she's been hunting down Miguel because she needs him to go back too, right? As much as he needs to go back, she needs him to go back. So she doesn't end up being forgotten one day as well, and so she's going to rescue them. She, of course, recognizes Hector right away, who recognizes her right away. And I love she's like, I definitely don't forgive you, Hector, but I will help you to set things straight. But they need to get that picture right. Uh, Ernesto de la Cruz has taken that picture of Hector, and Miguel says he's not going to leave without it. So they're going to go. They're going to do their best to try to get that picture taken, but they're not running into much luck. I like that you get a little fight scene there with the rest of the family. You got like the twin like uncles there, like one like pulls the arms off the other guy, turns them into like nunchucks, and they have a little bit of a fight
Yeah,
there with
that's
the
fun.
security for De La Cruz's security. But ends up Mami Imelda ends up going up to the up onto the stage, and this actually gets foreshadowed by a scene earlier. It's really beautiful. We should have made mention of it. Miguel kind of turns down this alley and is going up these stairs, locks this gate in behind him, and Mama Imelda kind of comes in, and she's like, pleading out to him basically, and she starts to sing, right? So that that music was in her heart as well. So it was hard for her to give up on music, but for the sake of the family is why she had to. And now she is propped up onto stage there at this big festival for everyone in the land of the dead. So what are you to do if you end up on a stage, Michaela? What would you do if you ended up on a stage in front of, I don't know, like a billion souls? You'd probably just belt it out.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Totally. I mean, but unlike me, Imelda can actually sing, and she's amazing. So she starts singing the song. It's actually really beautiful. Hector starts to play in the background. Miguel is there to see this whole thing, and that was one piece. If I was going to be critical about anything, I thought that they really kind of brushed over this piece between Hector and Imelda, because Hector left her. And he kind of is like, hey, I didn't mean to. I was murdered. I'm sorry. And she is still really mad at him, but they kind of put that aside for a bit and keep going. And I you have to, feel for the kind of sense of plot moving along in this part of the film. But to me, I wanted more of that, because she felt she gave up music completely because he did this thing, and there's no, I mean, he's like, I'm sorry, I was murdered, but we still got to get this kid back. And she's like, yeah, I'm mad at you, and I'm not happy with you. But then, like, I don't know, less than a minute, 2 minutes later, she's like, yeah, I lost the love of my life because of you. And so I wanted more of that. I guess I wanted.
There'll be time for that. They're running up against the clock. The sun's about
Yeah,
to rise. Their great 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 grandson is there going to be doomed for all
that's
eternity.
true. That's
Don't
true.
let bygones be bygones. You can iron it out the rest of the year, there for sure. Yeah, so they get up there, they perform, and eventually the camera turns on Ernesto de la Cruz, who commits to this crime, in tried and true movie fashion. Everyone sees him and turns against him. I really like they start throwing like all the fruit and stuff that they'd gotten from De Los Muertos up at him. That is really great, and then going to be rescued off. Right, they get the picture back. The spirit animals right, are going to be there. So you've got not only do you have Pepita, the cat, but you've also got Dante there, who's along for the ride, who also begins to transform into a spirit animal, which is really pretty awesome. Good job, Dante. There, he is going to be following Miguel around for all of eternity. That is really pretty cool. And they do, and they eventually get back to safety and are able to give that blessing to Miguel so he can go back to the land of the dead. No conditions. Just go and live your life, right? Stay true to your family, live your life, no conditions. Just get back there to the real world. And that's where Miguel goes, right? He's got that guitar and he is back in the land of the living. And go ahead, Michaela.
Go ahead, talk about the part where this is just where I start crying. So the biggest issue really is they send him back, they send Miguel back, but Hector is still fading because Coco is not remembering him well. So Miguel rushes through. He doesn't even say hi to anybody. He's just trying to find Grandma, Mama Coco, and Abuelita is really mad at him. She's like, I can't believe you. I can't believe you should apologize to her. I can't believe you've done this to your whole family. Like everybody has been looking for you all night long. How dare you? And what are you doing with the guitar? Oh my gosh, she's about to like lose her mind. She's so angry. And I'm angry watching her be angry. I'm angry at her because Miguel is really trying to connect with Mama Coco. And the only thing he can think of doing is going ahead and sitting next to her and playing the song Remember Me that he had learned was written for her by her dad. And nothing brings back a person's memory quite the way music does. And so I love this scene because you can see the tears fall from her face and she says like, Papa, and she remembers him. And it's like really great. And I can't talk too much more about it or else I'm going to cry. And Brian's going to laugh at me. So but it's a really beautiful moment. It is really heartfelt. And even Abuelita, she has a tear running down her withery old cheek. And she's like, I had no idea. And Coco, even though she is like, I don't know, 9,000 years old, she reaches over with her withered hands. And it's so like the attention to detail in the aging of her is just gorgeous. It's so pristine. But she reaches over and she's got all these letters that they realize were written way before Hector de la Cruz became famous. And they've got all of the lyrics and all of the songs that he had used. So in the living world, they're like, oh, he left, but it was not Ernesto de la Cruz that did all this. And he probably was murdered. I mean, all of that stuff kind of comes out later in the land of the living, which we see a year later at the latest Dia de los Muertos.
That's right. Fast forward 1 year. Yeah, I love her memories start to come back and she begins to sing that song with Miguel there with the family looking on, everyone in tears. And it has all of those letters and things. So they make a kind of a makeshift then museum, right? Kind of mausoleum there for Hector, which is really very cool. Very nice. They got the guitar hanging up there in the middle of that. And yeah, we're going to go forward 1 year. We see the all of the pictures there of all of the family. You see Miguel comes in with a little baby. You assume he must have a little baby sister or brother there now kind of at this point, and he's showing them all the kind of pictures that are up there on that, all the people that he'd met in the land of the dead, which is all the more personal now. And of course, they're placing the new picture up there for Grandma Coco there on the picture there as well. And then it's just absolutely beautiful, right? You see Hector and family with Coco coming back across from the land of the dead into the land of the living for the Dia de los Muertos festival, which is great. And then kind of the whole family is there reunited between the two astral planes, and it is very moving. Brings a tear to your eye for sure. But everything is okay, right? Because for the Dia de los Muertos in the land of the dead, being dead isn't something necessarily to be sad about, right? It's just a different plane of existence. It's about remembering one another and remembering those things and paying honor to those who have paved the way for you. And that is exactly what it does. So that is it. That is Coco. It is real emotional. Like I said, the first one, the first kind of scene there with Chicharone is really sad, but that's just like that's like the appetizer for how sad you're going to be the last 10 minutes of this, because it is rough. To get through it will bring sting to your eye for sure, even if you do not get too emotionally worked up at these things. And it's absolutely beautiful. Michaela, it's such like an amazing kind of look, and I think kind of like the message of this movie really kind of at the end of it is you never can fully understand how much people love you, right? Like I think that's kind of the thesis of the film, really. And that it would take, literally going to like a different plane of existence to see, the memories and, see people's perspectives on things to really get like a full grasp on that. And, you can only kind of scratch the surface with something like paying homage to the people you love and your family and things. So
Yeah, I mean it definitely has this feeling at the end of like coming full circle. Um, I really love that at the end, there's like reconciliation amongst those who have passed on. Not only with those who are living, because that's the one time of year of one day of the year they get to come and like kind of live amongst the living. But they also get to see each other. So like Coco gets to see her dad and her mom for the first time in years, and that's really great. The idea that there's something else is really cool. The idea that even as a kid, like Miguel, he didn't understand how important that was at the beginning of this. He definitely comes of age and understands that it's more than just a picture on a wall. It's more than just giving someone, an orange because they liked oranges. Like there's a lot more meaning to it. And I thought that was really cool because he grew up a little bit. He had to come to an understanding, but so did his whole family. They had to realize that it wasn't music's fault. And in every sense of the word, like they could not keep Miguel from being truly who he was. And that it wasn't fair for them to insist that just because that had been something that had kind of drawn Hector away for a short time, at least, right? That was not a reason enough for him to not do the things that he loves. And so everybody kind of grew to meet him. So it was a coming of age story really for the whole family. And I really love that. I think one of the things that Pixar does and has always done very, very well, different than Disney, different than DreamWorks, different than some of the other animation companies out there, where these animated films are for quote unquote kids, but they're not really. They're really almost more so for adults. And they just happen to be in a way, done in a way that is enjoyable and entertaining to the whole family. But there's so many more layers of lessons and things that adults will see, that it makes it not only entertaining, but really special and important. And I really love that about this film. I'm amazed that I got through saying all of that without crying. And I'm just going to stop now.
Well, there you go. Absolutely. Well done. Well done, Michaela. Almost as good as Dante there, the spirit dog who finds himself a little cat friend at the end of
Yeah.
the film. So very good, very good. So that is Coco. So if you've not seen it, if you, like Michaela, were worried that it was going to make you cry, so you never saw it, it is. But you should go see it anyways. It's really good. You can find it on Disney Plus if you want to check it out, and you want to make sure you check out a Frida's Flowers cocktail while you're watching it because it was excellent. It's perfect for this time of year. It's perfect for any Dia de los Muertos parties you got going on. So check that out. We want to see pictures of your cocktail that you made. You can send those our way. Feedback on the episode. Let us know what you thought about Coco. Let us know what your favorite Pixar film is. Let us know what other kid-friendly Halloween movies you got. We need to know all that stuff. You can do that on any of our social medias. It's at Drink the Movies on Instagram, X, Threads, Blue Sky, and Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to see pictures of the cocktail we made, episode recaps, links to Drink the Video Games, to the merchandise shop, all that stuff, you can find that on our website, which is www.drinkthemovies.com. And you want to make sure if you want to get any extra podcast stuff, you can go check out our Patreon. It's patreon.com/drinkthemovies. We do hangouts. We do extra bonus episodes every month. We do little cocktail chats when we're able to get extra cocktails when we go see movies. All sorts of fun stuff over there. You get early access to the episodes, all that good stuff. Patreon.com/drinkthemovies. And if you want to make sure that you're getting updated on our regular release schedules, right? We do 2 drops a week, Michaela. So where can people do that?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, anywhere where Spotify podcasts are distributed and supported. As you said, we do 2 drops a week. If you're liking what you're hearing, press the subscribe button. It's that simple. If you're really liking what you're hearing, you can leave us a review in all the ways. There are 5-star reviews or 10-star reviews, or leave a little blurb talking about how much you love us. Share us on all the social medias. We get to do this every day, and it is the best job ever. And it's only because of listeners like you that share all the things and spread all the Drink the Movies around. I will say, if you're loving this, you'll really love Drink the Video Games, even if you don't play video games. Brian's done an amazing job with Drink the Video Games. You should go check it out. That stuff is amazing. It's so good. The cocktails are great. And I'm in it just a little bit, so that's kind of fun. But honestly, go check that out too, because it is awesome.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And the newest episode this month also is going into Dia de los Muertos, right? Talking about Grim Fandango. So perfect for this time of year, and a really good cocktail there as well if you have more tequila drinks in your life to look forward to. So that's going to wrap it up for Coco. It was a really fun one. Looking forward to getting back to something a little bit scarier next week. By a little bit scarier, I mean a lot scarier. Let's do this, Michaela. Let's go ahead. We'll grab some more creme de cacao. We'll get some edible flowers, and we'll be back to talk to everyone next time on
Drink
the Movies.
the Movies. And from the darkness, a giant papaya. Dancers emerge from the papaya, and the dancers are all me. And they go drink from the milk of their mother, who is a cactus, but who is also me. And her milk is not milk, but tears. Is it too obvious? I love it.